Hi BookTube! My name is Sarah and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. Today I am coming to you with my Amour TBR. For those of you who don't know, Amour is a reading event, a month-long reading event created by the Bookish Bryants. I will leave a link to their announcement video below. They asked me to be one of the co-hosts and I very eagerly said yes because I always encourage the reading of romance. So it's a month-long event, as I said, and there are 8 prompts kind of broken out over the 4 weeks of the month. So every week is kind of a different 2 prompts. But the way that I look at it is, as long as you read romance throughout the month of September, it's fine. It's all good. You know what I mean? Like, you're fine. You don't have to keep up with the prompts, but in case people were curious and wanted some suggestions. So when I show this TBR, this isn't necessarily books that I am reading. Like, these aren't necessarily like, oh yes, I'm going to read all of these books this month. I'd like to get to all of them, but we shall see. But this is more of like a suggestion, and it's not even a suggestion of the specific book. But what I did was, all except for one book, and I can tweak that one, and I'll talk about it in a minute when I get to it. All except for one book are all category romances. They're all Harlequin / Mills and Boon category romances. So I just thought that it would be a great way for me to be able to share ways that you can pick these books if you're kind of like, you're not absolutely certain. So anyway, all that being said, let's get into it. So week number 1 is, the prompts are historical or contemporary. And a question was asked last night while I was in a reading sprint about, is romantic suspense considered? Yes. Romantic suspense, depending on the time period, would probably be considered contemporary. So be a contemporary read for Amour. So go ahead and do that if you so desire. I myself picked 2 very different lines from Harlequin. So again, in a way, I'm recommending the books, or at least the authors, but in another sense, I'm just recommending the line itself. So for contemporary, you can't go wrong with Presents novels. These are really fantastic. This is The Vows He Must Keep by the great Amanda Sinelli. I have interviewed her on the Categorically Romance podcast back when I was on it, and she's a delight. So these are all very modern type stories. These are modern fairy tales, for lack of a better term, in terms of Presents novel, like in terms of what you're looking at with a Presents novel. When you pick up a Presents novel, it's, in my opinion, the Presents books are the ones that when people think Harlequin or Mills and Boon, this is what they're thinking, is Presents. Every single time. These are the ones that involve billionaires and millionaires, and he's taking her out on his yacht, and that's not a euphemism. And maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't read the book yet. But you know what I mean? Like, this is like, she may have come from, lower class or a lower station in life, and she meets this guy. Maybe she was his maid, or she worked for him, and, he's going to jet her off to Paris or London or, Sydney or some other, Milan, whatever. Like, these are modern day fairy tales. These are true escapism romances. There is these are fantastic, and I'm not belittling them by saying this, but there is very little in here that the average reader is going to be able to be like, I can so see myself in her. Yes, like, I met this guy at the gym, and, he was a billionaire, and he jetted me off in his yacht, and, whatever. The average woman is not, or person is not going to, be able to say that they can maybe compare with the protagonist. But they are still fun, escapist reads, definitely considered, of course it's a contemporary. All of the lines except for one are contemporary, so any of the lines that you pick up would work. But in terms of, romance, I do love the Presents novels, and I recommend this one, or these ones, I should say. Next up, let's jump into historical. So right now, Harlequin is only producing or publishing one historical line. There used to be another one. There used to be the love-inspired historical, which were more faith-based historical romances. You can still find them at your thrift store, or you can find them like as ebooks. So if that's more your jam, then I would steer that way, if at all, like if that's what you're looking for. But the regular historical line is fantastic. So the book I have here to show you is Marriage or Ruin for the Heiress by the great Laurie Robinson. I love this author. She is an absolute favorite of mine. She wrote a book a number of years ago that is still hands down probably my favorite category romance of all time, which was Diary of a War Bride. And it was about a woman in London, or in England, during World War II. and she meets a American soldier who is stationed over there, and they start a relationship. It's a very sweet romance, and within the story is her writing this diary. And the way I read this book, when I pictured it, all I thought was is that this is something that would be so relatable to so many people because I could almost picture like her granddaughter or great granddaughter of the main character finding this diary and reading the story of her grandparents. Do you know what I mean? Like, we hear stories like that all the time. So Diary of a War Bride, if you're looking for a historical that you want to read that's more I don't want to say a modern historical, but World War II is a lot closer to our time period. You might want to check that one out. But anyway, this one is one of her newer ones. This one came out in January, and it is the first book in the Osterland saga. And what I really like about this one, it's a 2-book series that this is about. So our 2 main characters, Jolie and what's his name? Randall. Book 2 is actually about their daughter. So I really like that you're getting 2 very different time periods. So this is, I believe, the Roaring 20s, and then the second book I think is the 1950s. So a lot of fun. Laurie Robinson does some really fun stuff with the historical line. But like I said, these are definitely the ones you're going to pick up. There's going to be something, no matter what time period you might be interested in, whether it be medieval or Viking or Highlander or Regency. I mean, like, plethora of Regency. Clearly, we have something from the Roaring 20s. She's done a lot of them for the Roaring 20s. Laurie Robinson has. The 1950s you're starting to see a lot more now. And I think, hands down, she still did one of, I didn't love the book, but I have to admit that Laurie Robinson took a chance when she wrote the book Saving Mariana, which is a book that takes place during the Salem witch trials. So, I mean, come on. There's a little something for everyone. But yeah, so definitely Harlequin historical. So the next 2 prompts would be sweet and spicy. So this is in terms of the amount of adult content. I could have gone really easy with this and picked like a love-inspired book, but those are faith-based, and I thought not everyone necessarily, like, people might want a sweet romance, but they don't want the faith-based element of that sweet romance. So instead, I went with a heartwarming book. And this is The Husband Show by Christine Rolifson. I've not read it yet. I got this one used. This is a large print. I love the fact that these are large print. It's fantastic. A cowboy romance. A lot of these are small town romances. They are very, very sweet. There is generally not a lot of adult content. There is no adult content in these at all. I'm trying to remember if I've even read one that happened behind closed doors, and I don't think so. So I think you're getting like all of the emotional part of the relationship, and the heartwarming books are so, so good. I'm very, very pleased because we were not able to find these in our stores, but when I was at Walmart the other day, I did notice that they had a couple of these, but they're labeled as Western for some reason. I don't understand why. I think they're doing that in the US too. But anyway, these are fantastic if you can find them. And again, like all these ones that I'm showing you, you can find them as ebooks. If you're looking, check the Harlequin website, look at the different lines and see what might interest you. But again, if you're looking for something sweet, this is the way to go. Spicy. I could have gone a couple different ways with this one, but I decided to go like the most spicy. And this is a line that is no longer being published, but I was so fortunate that one of the publishers at Harlequin got in touch with Bree and I back when we did the podcast, or when I did the podcast with Bree. Bree is still doing the podcast with Aaron. That she was cleaning out her office and she had a box or boxes of these books. Now, these were not sold in print in North America. They were only sold in print under Mills and Boon in the UK and overseas. That's the Dare line. And I do like the Dare line. There have been a couple of them that I've really enjoyed. This is by Avril Tremaine. Rachel Stewart also wrote for the Dare line, and she was fabulous. So I absolutely recommend you read Rachel Stewart as well. I just happened to pull this one off my shelf. It's called Getting Naughty. So these were the most explicit books that Harlequin ever published. And actually, fun fact for those of you who might be new to the channel, I was interviewed in a newspaper here in Toronto when these were first released. If I can find a link to that article, I will post it below. But yeah, I was actually contacted when someone saw my YouTube channel and wanted me to talk about these. So along with the Dare line, I would also absolutely recommend the Blaze line, which is still hands down my favorite line. I'm still upset that it's gone. It was fantastic. There are so many great books in that line. The Dare line crossed a couple of boundaries in terms of the explicit content, whereas Blaze kept it a little bit more fun and flirty, whereas these tended to go a little darker, if that makes sense. So depending on what your preference is, like the adult content was relatively the same, but it was like darker or more fun or flirty for the Blaze books. And yeah, I did, the ones of these that I have read, I have enjoyed. It's just generally not my go-to is the more explicit. But yeah, I wouldn't mind giving this one a try. It's actually a pretty tame cover, so there is that. The next set is the Haves and Have-Nots. So this one, you know, I was kind of like, how could I do this? So I decided for the Haves to go with a book, or to go with the line Desire. Okay, so the Desire. Look at that cover, you guys. These covers are hands down some of my favorites. They are just stunning. Absolutely stunning. So this is Husband and Name Only by the great Barbara Dunlop. Everyone says they're the perfect match, but is their wedding bargain too good to be true? So sounds like a fake relationship type dealie. But for the Haves, most of the time with these, when you pick them up, you are going to be getting a book that involves one of the main characters being very well-to-do. It's the same with the Presents line. You could use a Presents novel for the Haves as well. But I'm just offering you to try out a different line if you so desire. So in this one, our main character is a rugged Alaskan rancher. Clearly has some money. I mean, let's look at that place that he's like hanging out. And she is, who is she? She's an ambitious architect. So yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, most of the time these books, you're getting one of the characters, at least one of the characters, if not both of them, definitely being haves, who have some sort of financial, you know, monies. But yeah, I do love the Desire line. These books are so fantastic. Again, that cover, these are great. This is a gambling men novel. I do want to get to all of these in the month, but, you know, we shall see how it all works out. And for the Have-Nots, I had a bit of fun with this one because I thought to myself as I was staring at my shelves, I'm like, what would, constitute a have-not? You know, would be just like, to me, it's not that you're poor, but that you're just your average everyday person. You're working your 9-to-5 job, or, you know, you're just living your life or whatever. And then my eyes fell upon some of these books and I'm like, yeah, let's go with that. For the Have-Nots, an Amish book. Is that not perfect? So this is a Love Inspired. It's an inspirational romance, and they do a lot of these. I think at least they publish 6 of these books every month, and at least 2 to 3 of them are Amish themed. So you will find an Amish book. And this is Someone to Trust by Patricia Davids. I need coffee this morning, you guys. Cheers. Someone to Trust. So really, the Amish are have-nots, like in a way. They don't have electricity, they don't have cars, they don't really worry too much about money. You know, it's just like, that's how they live and exist. So if you wanted a have-not romance, you can't go better than an Amish romance. And there are more than just the ones that are from the Love Inspired line. There's also the Love Inspired Suspense line that does a lot of Amish romances as well. There are some great authors, Marta Perry, you know, Patricia Davids. She writes standalone ones outside of the category romance if you want to step away from that. Because again, I mean, clearly these are Amish, so they're going to be faith-based, but some of them are a lot more faith-based than others, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's what I would pick for that one. The next one is, this one was, I just kind of had a bit of fun with this one. It was traditionally published or self-published. So traditionally published could really be any category romance book, any book published by Harlequin or Mills and Boon would absolutely work. I grabbed this one off my shelf because I really want to read it. It's Rescue at Cedar Lake by Maggie K. Black. This is one of the books in the True North Bodyguards, which is a Canadian series. So about bodyguards up here in Canada. So like I said, any of these could be used. You could, like, I was trying to pick like one for each line. So the lines that I'm missing that are currently being published is special edition. I don't have one for special edition, which would work for contemporary or traditionally published. Intrigue. Again, it would work for contemporary or traditionally published. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What am I missing? Oh, the romance line, of course, the pink spined line. Definitely, that would probably work for have. It would also work for contemporary. And what else am I forgetting? Desire historical. let's see how good I am. Romantic suspense. The romantic suspense line, of course. That would also absolutely work for contemporary or for traditionally published. Now, the last thing was independently published. And I mean, all these are category romance. They're all published by Harlequin or Mills and Boon. So yeah, clearly they're all going to be traditionally published. However, there is some cases where some authors have retained their rights back to the books. Lisa Plumley is one of those authors I can think of off the top of my head, and I believe that they have gone ahead and started publishing them themselves. So I would count those as independently published. Like, it used to be published by Harlequin, but it's now being independently published. So that would work. But for the all intents and purposes for this readathon, I am going to be reading My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey, which is self-published by her. I am very, very excited about this book. We are buddy reading it over on my Discord, so if you guys want to join in, please do so. So this one also, if you wanted just to read this book, you could hit all 4 weeks with one book. And how, you may be asking? It's a contemporary romance, so it hits contemporary. It is a spicy book because it's Tessa Bailey. As I just said, it's independently published, and I would consider these guys to be have-nots. Only because, like, she is an elementary school teacher and he's a bounty hunter. So those are, like, you know, your average 9-to-5 jobs. But like I said, you could hit everything with just this one book. And you can do that. If you just want to read one romance for Autumn Amour, you absolutely can. And if you want to try and hit, like, justify it all day long, I think it's fantastic. So yeah, anyway, that's my TBR for this. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. This became a bit more of a discussion about category romance than anything else, but I hope it kind of gave you guys some ideas. The thing I like is that these tend to be shorter books. They're like around 200 pages. So for the average romance reader or the average reader, you can fly through them relatively quickly and not feel like you're taking on too much. So yeah. So anyway, that is all that I have for this video today, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. And until next time, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.